Hi Stampers, this is Karen Phillip. I'm a Stampin' Up Demonstrator and I'm pleased to show you how to do this technique. It's called ghosting, and you can see how it's got kind of a shaded look, or they're calling it ghosting. And so this is the card that we'll be making, and this is the sampler sheet. So let's get started. I did get this idea from another demonstrator and I copied her card completely. I don't recall who it was, I'm sorry. But she made a birthday card and did the ghosting on this part of it with the cake. I modified the card just a little bit, but basically it was that. So I didn't want to copy it, so I was playing then, and I did it with these flowers. And that was pretty too, but I didn't want to use this color. And then I also did one with this sunflowery kind of look. It didn't turn out quite as good as I had hoped. Here's another sample of just the ghosting part of it. And this is the full stamp of it. So it starts with white actually, but it looks like this, but this is how if you just stamped it plain. Okay, now we'll get started. So what you need is white ink, the craft ink, and it is available in the catalog, and the list will be on my website. You need a piece of, I'm using 4 by 5 1/4 boho blue. And there's a couple steps to this. I hope I'll be able to see this. So the first thing we're going to do is take, in your kit you should have gotten a little piece of this 2 3/4 square. And this would be for your sample, but because I forgot to put 2 of these in the kits that got mailed out, this you can either use it for your card or use it for your sample. So what we're going to do for this one, because this we're going to cut out. There is a die for this set. This is called Changing Leaves, and it's on the online exclusives. It does have the dies, and it's a hybrid die set, so it has an embossing folder as well. I did not have it at the time. It was not available. It should be available soon, but it's a really cool stamp set. So first step, I'm going to ink up my stamp. Stamp this just on here because I will be cutting it out, and you could use the die if you had it. Now because I'm going to emboss this, I'm going to emboss it first, just to get that out of the way while the ink is nice and wet. I'll at least do that. I'll emboss it in a minute. Okay. And now you notice I didn't buddy it first. That's because it's not necessary for this one because we'll be cutting it out. Alright. We're going to take our white and ink it up, stamp it, and you want to put something underneath it because the white ink will get all over otherwise. So I'm stamping it on the card. This is how I like to do random designs. Turn the card quarter, stamp it. See, it's a different direction. Otherwise you can go like this, but this seems to give a better design for me. Turn it, and that's okay, it missed a little bit here. One here, turn it, and this one will be a little different. This one I'm going to turn this way. Okay, so there's 5 on here. 5's a good number. It's a odd, you get the odd even thing. You want odd usually. Now I have to clean that off because we're going to be using our ink over the top of it. So I'm going to use a wipe and try and get as much off of it as I can. I should use my, what's it called that? It's purple, what is it? I can't think of the name of it. And I know you people watching it that know the name are yelling it out at me, but I'm not hearing it. Sorry. Okay, so I'm just getting all the ink off of it. Starts with a chamois. That's what it is. It's a chamois. I knew it would come to me. Okay, so now we're going to take, you want to make sure this is dry. Okay. Now we're going to take our, we're going to do a little embossing first. I'm going to take this little sample, or the piece that we're cutting out, and I'm going to emboss this, get the embossing the heat tool hot. And I'll try to speed up some of this when I get going here. Now that this is embossed, I'm going to heat this a little bit to dry the ink. You need the ink dry in order to do this. Otherwise it'll get all over all your ink pad and it won't work. So I'm going to dry this as much as I can. You don't have to melt it or anything. You'll be able to see the shinier parts. White ink doesn't really dry well. Uncurling it by flipping it over. That should be good. Okay, so now to ensure that it's not going to keep the ink anywhere, I'm using my buddy and I'm buddying the whole thing. And that takes off any wet that might be still there. Okay. And it doesn't hurt or anything. This is already done. All right. Now we're going to take that same stamp, and you can see my stamp, it's probably dyed now with that white because it went through a class and maybe it didn't get cleaned as well. All right, so now what I'm going to do is stamp over each of these whites. What we found is if you go down a little bit, it's usually too much. So what I kind of found is if you kind of eye it up and like figure out where it is and just press down, it still wasn't quite 100% on. And that's what you want. You don't want it right on it. So it gives that ghosting effect. So you go through each one of these. And just stamp down. And I'm aiming, I'm not trying to move it off at all. I'm trying to go right on it, and obviously I'm not good. See, that one's a little bit better, but it's still off. This one. But you want it a little bit off, and you don't want it too far off, but you want it so that it's just a smidge. We're using smidges here, that's my measurements, a smidge, because then, see, like this is kind of off. This one is a little bit more off, but it'll be all right. So that's it that's how you get the technique itself. Then I took this Painted Paradise set. I wanted a little leaf or something in between some of this, just for a little bit of interest, I guess. So I'm using this one right here, and just using full strength ink, and you don't want too many because you don't want to junk it up. I think I have to re-ink my pad here. And that's how you get those. Next step is just putting it together. I'm using a white base. You'll figure out which direction you want to put your piece. I have a piece of 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 of Misty Moonlight. Glue that there. This gets cut out, put there, and I have the sentiment that says a little note to brighten your day. And then the finished card, I I did add a couple gems, is right there. So it's just a fun little card, but the technique is neat. And if you experiment with different colors or different designs, you do need a more solid image. You can't really use an outline image, just a little side note there. So the more solid, because this is pretty solid, the more solid the image, the better this will work. So thanks for watching. Go make one and have a great day.